So, I haven't done one of these in a minute because I keep being busy or traveling on Fridays. And I'm thinking moving forward, I'm probably going to have to change the day I do my Q&As. And I might only do it once a month moving forward, but we'll see. Hi, Alex. Hi, Bailey. Thanks for being here. So I wanted to, though, I had time today, a little later than I'd planned, but we were at my kids' holiday assembly and class party at school today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about ritual. We have the solstice, winter solstice for the Northern Hemisphere people is tomorrow, and I'm getting a lot of questions from people about, I feel like I want to celebrate the solstice, or I want to have more ritual in my life, but I'm not religious, I'm not Wiccan, I'm not particularly pagan, I'm not Christian, I want to experience and explore ritual, but I'm not sure where to start or how do I do that. And I have daily rituals I do. I have monthly rituals. Ritual for me can be as simple as just the intention to have some sacred time and space. So for me, I can have a ritual around having my morning coffee. It doesn't have to be this big production. Now, I do have a lot of objects here with me today that I've slowly gathered and acquired over the years. And they've all come to me because, not all of them, a lot of them have been used in ritual, or I acquired them because I ended up needing them in a ritual. I don't do ritual work from a book. There are plenty of, if you follow specific traditions, there's tons of already recorded, written down rituals that you can follow. And I think one of the really cool things that's happening in this day and age with kind of modern spirituality and people coming into their own personal practices and finding out what resonates for them, is this, we have the autonomy, give yourself permission to create the rituals that feel right for you. For me, ritual is using intention and oftentimes tangible objects to connect with energy, to set intentions, to call in something, to release something, but I'm using objects to represent the energy I am asking to move, to work with, to show gratitude for, etc. Hopefully that's making sense. So one of the objects I use a lot in my ritual work is a candle. For me, when I light, this is it's a well-used candle, right? I light candles all the time. I light candles before any session I have with a client. Not that that's necessarily a specific ritual, but when I start my session, that is my ritual. I light a candle, and I usually light some incense of some kind. Palo Santo is my go-to. I really resonate with Palo Santo and love the smell of it. I've used it for years. But it doesn't have to be that. You find what works for you. And that's the thing, give yourself permission to find the things that you connect with. See what just organically shows up for you. You don't need to go out and purchase a kit to do ritual work. It will show up. The objects that you're going to need will show up. Sometimes I just walk in my backyard and there's a pretty leaf and I'm oh, I'm gonna use this, today. But candles are go-to. You can have candles that are different colors if you're doing different type of, if you want, you can choose what the color means to you. You don't have to go by what anyone else says if you're choosing to create your own ritual. Another thing I do a lot is I write things down, and I actually have this little journal is designated as ritual paper. It was a journal I got, and it has this beautiful little handmade paper in it. And so sometimes I'll write things down that I'm releasing, or I'll write things down that I'm calling in, and I'll bury it, or I'll burn it, or I'll dissolve it in water. So that's like another easy thing to have. And since I do that often, I just keep this in my sacred space, on my little altar space. I always have this little book handy, this little journal, and I pull the pages out when I need them. And the more you use something for a specific purpose, like this has become my kind of ritual paper book. Yes, Alex says I want to add burning to my rituals. I've always loved fire and like really respected the power of fire. So I burn things a lot. And so if you're going to be burning things a lot, one thing I recommend, we want to be safe, you know. I have this little cauldron. I have a big cauldron too now. But again, these are things I've slowly acquired over the years. So I have my little cauldron, which is safe to burn things in. So I burn things in here a lot. You can tell it's been well used. And then, you want to be safe. So I can always close it if I need to put the flame out if things get too big. But this lets me burn things safely in a contained way. Plus, look how cute it is. It's heavy. This thing is like actually pretty heavy, but it's my little cauldron. It's got the moon symbol on it, but you can get a bowl. You can get I have a pot when I do space clearings or land clearings. I have just like a pot I bought at Goodwill. You don't need to spend a lot of money. It's intention more than anything. I have a designated burning pot. I got it at Goodwill. It was like $1.20. And it's like just a pot with a lid, and I can put shit in it and burn it and like close it up when I need to. So for me, it's just, it comes down to intention and feeling into what do I think I'm going to be doing. And sometimes I go to Goodwill. A lot of my ritual stuff comes from Goodwill. Like this bell I found one day. I was going to be doing some witchy stuff with my friend out in the woods. And it was like I had to go to Goodwill first. Sometimes I have to buy like specific things to wear. All of this, y'all, I don't plan this out. It just drops in. I've just learned to trust the nudges. So if I feel like, need to pull into like the thrift shop, I do. I pull into the thrift shop and I just start walking up and down the aisles, and I'll just feel like, come over here, and I'll go over there. And one day this bell was there. It's got a rose on the handle. It's really pretty. And so sometimes sound is used in the ritual, and all of my rituals are just kind of, I don't plan them out in advance. It's just what I feel guided to do. So I was guided to get this bell. I had no idea why. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then it evolves once we like get together. I got together with my friend, and you can do your own ritual work privately. I do lots of my own private work, just me and energy and my objects. But it is fun to collaborate with friends and see what evolves. I've led group rituals where we all bring something, and we don't always know what other people are going to bring. And that's a really cool thing to do if you have a group of friends that you're comfortable doing that with, and y'all want to do that. Ask everyone to bring something, to feel into what they feel called to bring. And it's really awesome to see what unfolds when you do that. And so we ended up doing this neat little ritual that involved us like ringing this bell. And I haven't used it much since. Some things I end up using a lot, some things I don't. But when I was moving house, I was like, is it time for this to go? Sometimes I pass things on to other people. I don't need them anymore, and so I give them away. But that one wanted to come, and so it's been sitting on my altar at home. Another thing I do a lot, I have this little selenite bowl. Give offerings in it, or use the bowl as a representation of like I want to receive something. If I'm doing a ritual where I'm like asking for something to come in, a lot of times I'll set out a bowl to have a space. Again, it's using tangible objects to represent what I'm asking for, what I'm wanting to happen energetically. And so if I'm asking for something to come in, I actually designate a space that indicates I am open to receiving. You don't always have to do this. It's just like, this is sometimes my special bowl. And it's made of selenite, which is like a crystal that connects with the energy of the moon. It keeps things like clear and high vibrational and keeps the energy moving. Other times I lay out stones. I'll build like a crystal grid. Here's some black tourmaline. Sometimes things need to be a particular shape. So I have this like amethyst pyramid. Actually, this is Jonah's. Jonah has his own little altar space, my son, where he does his own. Oh, kids are naturals at this. If you watch kids, they're doing their own. They might not call it a ritual, but they are always working with objects, often from nature or anything that they're particularly drawn to. They'll arrange them in particular ways, and they know what they're doing. They're working with energy. I have this awesome thing my friend found and gave to me, so a lot of times stuff gets passed between friends. It's awesome. It's got a mermaid on it. Look at that. All kinds of stuff. You can use toys. I've used toys, like children's toys in rituals before. Herbs are another thing I use a lot. Sometimes I burn them. Sometimes I just have them out. And I create like a mandala or a grid of sorts. It's working with these objects in various ways. You don't have to follow a set formula. And if you like to follow a set formula, do that. There is power in following, like doing the same thing over and over again. If there's something you want to say every time you do a ritual, then do that. And if you feel called to follow someone else's words or an established ritual that exists, then do that. There's people, obviously, that people call the 4 corners or the 4 directions. I do end up very organically without planning it again. I'll notice during my ritual, I've ended up incorporating things from the different elements. So I usually have like feathers that represent air often. I'll have a bowl of water out for water. I'll have my candle burning for fire, and I'll have like a stone or a plant that indicates earth. And then usually like a bowl or receptacle of some time for like a space or a spirit element. Sometimes I have to take, I will take like, this is a flower essence I have. Sometimes my rituals involve me putting oil on myself, like anointing myself. Some of them involve me getting into a bath or a shower. Other times I'm out at a river and I need to go like put my feet in the river or like sing into the river. Sometimes you have things that represent like cutting or setting boundaries. So I have this awesome alligator jaw my friend gave me. Again, most of my ritual objects found me or were given to me. There's been a few that I've purchased, but I haven't spent a lot of money on this stuff. You don't need to. What do you do rituals for, says Elena? That's a great question. And I talked a little bit about that already, but I do them when, again, if I'm wanting to acknowledge a milestone in my life or a shift in my life or a change I am asking for, if I'm wanting to release something and do something kind of tangible to acknowledge that, I do rituals often at particular times throughout the year. So again, we have solstice coming up. Solstice is a time we prepare for the return of the light, but we're moving through the longest night. So I will do a little ritual to acknowledge the energies all around me, the energies of nature, the energy of what's happening cosmically, and how that impacts me. Working with energy in a conscious way to include my intentions and my gratitude for the life I'm living. And so I will use like the solstice time to have a light burning to signify it is dark, but we can kindle light and we're preparing for the light to return. And to be with that experience of darkness, of stillness, feeling into anything from the year, because winter solstice happens at the end of the year. And in particular, this year, we're concluding an entire decade. So taking time to acknowledge what has passed, what has transpired, and to be with creates sacred space for any feelings that I haven't been able to fully tap into over this past decade. To see what wants to come up. Sometimes as I'm doing a ritual, I will access layers of emotion. I will access memories or experiences that I hadn't fully had time or space to drop into in the moment. And it's a time to do some like truly therapeutic work around being with my own experience, maybe reframing it in some way, maybe just witnessing myself as someone who has lived through this experience. And again, creating that sacred container where I feel it is safe or it is, what's the word I want to use? There's something about a witnessing, even if no one is there, I'm creating sacred space for my inner experience to be witnessed or made known or documented, represented in some way. And there is something for me, and this might not be true for other people, but for me that is therapeutic in that. And it's a way of honoring my own experience without any judgment, without having to put any kind of spin on it, just letting it be raw and real and acknowledged. And then seeing if something wants to happen from there. If I let an experience come up and I'm with it. Like a lot of times I'm crying, sometimes I'm laughing, sometimes I'm singing or dancing. I put on music and dance. Sometimes I play a drum, or again, I have my bow. Different things. It's a sacred playground for me. That's what ritual really comes down to. I have these objects. I can be with them and use them in whatever way I need to tell my own story. And then to indicate how I would like energy to move or shift in my life, if I choose that. How to express gratitude. Sacred playground, yes. Ritual for me is something that's fun. Even when it's bringing up a lot of things that maybe aren't fun, which happens. It is ultimately an experience of play, of not having to have a script, of having objects that I get to use in whatever way I feel called to use them, whether that's arranging them or whatever. I like having them represent things, whatever I want to do, I get to do it. And it's all very intuitive and guided and not scripted and not planned. And I don't let my judgment or my thoughts get too involved in it. I just let the energy guide the experience and let my feelings guide things. And something really cool unfolds. And there's times I create, part of the work I do is I help other people create customized rituals for themselves. If someone's moving through a time of transformation that they're needing some support in kind of acknowledging or being with, I often suggest that we create a ritual. A lot of times it will drop in. Their guides, their higher self will guide us through what is needed. And it will just come and it will just flow. And then if they want support or they want me to do the ritual with them, a lot of times in my workroom at Seed the Star, we're burning things in my cauldron. I've got all kinds of stuff there as well, just like I do at home. And I'll pull what we need. We've used birthday candles. We've used all different kinds of stones, different herbs, different beverages. Like, it's different every time. We've used chewing. I did one ritual with a client that involved chewing gum, and I didn't know why. I literally opened my drawer at work, and I remembered like a month before I'd placed a little packet of Big Red in there, and I was like, I don't know why we need this, but I have it. And she was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of when I was in high school. Like, I used to chew this all the time, and I would make out with my boyfriend, and now whenever I can't smell Big Red and not like go back to that time. And that ended up being really relevant for the ritual we did. So I had her actually chew the gum and then spit it out and add it to the pot. It was awesome. It was perfect. I don't know why, like, I didn't know why we needed the Big Red. I just felt that, like, this wants to be used. So trust what you sense and let yourself play. And then see what unfolds. Maybe you don't really experience anything. Maybe ritual work doesn't call to you. But maybe it does. Maybe it does. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to have a reason per se. You can do ritual just for the sake of doing ritual. It is a form of energy work. And so it's one that you can play with and make your own and see what unfolds for you. Start by seeing what objects show up. You can even like say, I'm going to do a ritual tonight. I don't know what exactly, but take yourself out and about that day and see what you feel called to. And it might just be a little nudge of like, I'm going to go down this street and then suddenly I'm at this store. Or I'm going to walk in my backyard, or I'm going to go for a walk around my neighborhood, and then something just catches your eye, or your shoe kicks a rock, and you pick it up, and you're like, oh, I think this wants to come home with me, or a pine cone, or some peanut butter from your kitchen. Like, all of this stuff is stuff that has happened that I've used in ritual over the years. So, again, it doesn't have to be a big and elaborate production. But see what objects want to show up. Pay attention to your emotional and energetic reaction and response. What comes up for you as you engage with this object. And then just let yourself play and see what happens and see how you feel. That's all. I think I'm going to wrap this up because I have food coming and a friend coming. And I'm going to enjoy my afternoon. And hopefully get an evening to really deeply rest because I worked really hard this week. But if any of you have questions about ritual or have your own experience with it, which sacred ceremony, those can be big, like weddings and blessing ways, funerals are all sacred ceremonies. But ritual and sacred ceremony for me go hand in hand. A ritual is a sacred ceremony, but it can be something as simple as me enjoying my morning coffee and looking out the window. Or it can be me burning things in a cauldron and ringing bells and putting on special outfits and dancing. All kinds of stuff. So play around with that. Have a great weekend. Send me your questions if you have them. Send me any experiences you've had with ritual that I can share because I want to do another little talk on this at a later date. Probably, 2020 probably. But I love hearing how other people explore and use ritual in their own lives and their own work. And hopefully this kind of introduce some ideas or possibilities, or at least just give yourself permission. Anyone can create their own ritual, and it's more powerful when you do create it for yourself. There's tons of guidelines out there for doing ritual. I've just never been that kind of person that follows someone else's script. That's part of my practice. That's how I am. So I do my own thing, and my own thing unfolds. But if you're really not feeling that, and you don't know where to begin, and you feel like you do need some guidance, either come see me, because I love helping people create custom guided rituals, or start with someone else's ritual that they've created and go from there, because sometimes we just need to like participate in someone else's ritual in order to feel, the ideas and inspiration drop in for creating your own. So you can do other people's stuff too. No big deal. I'm gonna sign off now. Have a great weekend and happy solstice. Sending all my love. Bye, y'all.